Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating, high-stakes mystery that sits right smack at the intersection of antitrust law, complex economics, and cutting-edge tech. We are putting artificial intelligence to the absolute ultimate legal test. If you've ever wondered if AI can actually handle deeply nuanced, multi-million-dollar arguments in real-world litigation, well, you're in the right place. So, here's the billion-dollar question we're tackling today. Could a machine, an AI model, dissect dense legal and economic arguments without ever stepping foot inside a courtroom? Modern antitrust cases rely heavily on these incredibly complicated economic models to predict market behavior, right? They're notoriously tough even for seasoned specialists to unpack. So we really wanted to know if an AI could read through public pre-trial expert reports and spot the fatal flaws before the gavel even drops. To figure that out, we're running a four-step antitrust test. First, we grab a public expert report from a real case. Second, we unleash the AI on it to critique the economics. Third, we check the actual court decision. And fourth, the alignment test. Basically, we compare the AI's early findings directly against the judge's final ruling to see how they stack up.
All right, part one, the mattress merger, featuring Tempur Sealy and Mattress Firm.
Now, you probably know Tempur Sealy is a massive mattress manufacturer, and Mattress Firm is the nation's biggest bedding retailer. Back in May 2023, Tempur Sealy announced this huge acquisition of Mattress Firm, but by July 2024, the Federal Trade Commission stepped in and sued to block it. That kicked off a major legal battle that actually just wrapped up on February 4, 2025, when the court officially denied the FTC's injunction, which allowed the merger to go through.
Which brings us to part two, the economic battleground. We're looking at market definition and foreclosure here.
The whole case really hinged on whether this merger would unfairly freeze out rival mattress suppliers. To make their case, the plaintiff relied on a foundational antitrust tool called the Hypothetical Monopolist Test, or HMT. Grasping this is absolutely crucial. The HMT essentially asks, if a hypothetical monopolist controlled a specific group of products, could they profitably raise the price by a small but significant amount, say 5%, without losing so many customers that the price hike actually costs them money? If they can raise the price safely, then that specific group of products is legally recognized as its own distinct antitrust market.
Using that exact test, the plaintiff laid out their big claim. They argued that a highly specific, narrow market exists entirely for premium mattresses priced at $2,000 and above. And by defining the market that narrowly, it meant Mattress Firm would suddenly hold a massive, dominant share of that specific premium segment post-merger.
To back that up, the government pointed to this real-world natural experiment, a divorce period. Between 2017 and 2019, Mattress Firm and Tempur Sealy actually split up temporarily. The plaintiff tracked where the customers went and claimed that most shoppers looking for a Tempur Sealy just bought a different premium mattress at Mattress Firm rather than going to a totally different store or buying a cheaper bed. They argued this proved that the $2,000-plus segment was an isolated, distinct market. And the two sides? Totally opposite views on what this meant. The plaintiff theorized that locking up Mattress Firm would allow Tempur Sealy to profitably kick out rivals like Kingsdown, Serta, and Simmons. But the defense brought a major economic reality check. If you shrink the variety of beds on a showroom floor, you shrink overall mattress sales volume and total retailer revenue. In their view, the cash loss from fewer overall sales would completely dwarf any gains from pushing more Tempur Sealy beds.
Moving on to part three, AI critiques the experts. Let's find the flaws in the math.
So, we unleashed our AI detective on the publicly available pretrial expert reports from both sides. We asked it to evaluate the HMT, the market definitions, the whole foreclosure analysis. And man, the AI caught some massive, glaring flaws in the plaintiff's model. First off, it noticed the $2,000 threshold was chosen backwards, meaning they essentially picked the number that gave Mattress Firm the highest market share, instead of letting actual consumer behavior dictate the market boundaries. Second, it flagged that the natural experiment was contaminated because it tracked all Tempur Sealy beds, not just the ones over $2,000. That actually created theoretically impossible diversion ratios exceeding 100%. And finally, the AI pointed out that the plaintiff's model totally ignored real-world stuff like promotions, discounts, and price flexibility.
Digging into that last point, the AI didn't just stop at a critique. It ran an illustrative sensitivity analysis. It showed that the plaintiff's test only passed because it relied on this rigid, fixed margin assumption. Basically, it assumed retail prices march in perfect mechanical lockstep with wholesale prices. But as a reality check, if you introduce variable or dynamic margins, which is, how real retailers actually operate with sales and discounts, the entire model just falls apart.
It showed just how incredibly fragile the whole thing was. With that unrealistic fixed margin, the plaintiff's model barely scrapes by the HMT. But the absolute second you introduce realistic variable margins, the way the actual world works, the entire model fails. The whole foundation of the plaintiff's antitrust argument literally crumbles just by correcting that single assumption.
All right, part 4, the verdict. AI versus the court. Let's look at the ultimate scorecard.
So how did the AI's pretrial homework actually stack up against the human judge's ruling in February 2025? Honestly, it's a stunning, perfect match. Even without access to sealed exhibits or live witness testimony, the AI caught the exact same decisive methodological flaws as the court. Both found the $2,000 threshold was chosen backwards. Both found the natural experiment and diversion ratios super unreliable. Both correctly identified that the market definition was way too narrow.
If you want to see just how perfectly aligned they were, check out this exact quote from the district court's final finding on February 4th. The judge wrote, "The price set by retailers doesn't march in lockstep with the price set at wholesale." I mean, that is an incredible parallel. The AI independently called out that exact unrealistic fixed margin issue during its pretrial scan, and then the judge used almost the identical logic and phrasing to dismantle the case in the final decision.
Which takes us to our final section, part 5, why this matters today. The future of complex litigation.
Look, the big takeaway here is clarity of purpose. AI isn't going to replace human economists or trial lawyers anytime soon. But as a pretrial screening tool, it is a brilliant complement to human judgment. It's an absolute game changer for interrogating complex assumptions, running rapid sensitivity analyses, and spotting those obvious methodological vulnerabilities long before you ever step foot in a courtroom. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. If an AI tool can successfully read public documents and practically predict a judge's economic reasoning, how is this going to reshape the future of legal strategy and antitrust litigation? We've seen today that AI can truly democratize the understanding of incredibly dense economics, and that is a pretty powerful thought. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the data.
Thanks for watching. For the deep dive economic analysis behind these stories, join us at econworks.com. Subscribe to stay informed on where law and economics meet the market. We'll see you in the next episode.